Well, I hope today finds everybody out there well and happy today. We're in chapter 12 of Proverbs today, and this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. And the Proverbs we're going to look at today, we're going to look at Proverbs 12. And Proverbs 12, it talks about the domestic and public relationship. That's relationships between each other domestically and the public relationships. It's going to give us 8 common classes of people and of things today. It says, "Whosoever loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish." What he's saying here, there's 2 types of people in this world. There's those that love knowledge and those that will grow in knowledge, instruction, and wisdom. And then there are those who are foolish that hate to be reproved. I don't know, but I guess every single one of us that are human beings hate for somebody to tell us what to do or what not to do. We just feel like that we already have everything under control and what we're doing is okay. But sometimes it's not. God has to correct us on a daily basis in our everyday lives. It says, "A good man obtaineth favor of the Lord, but a man with wicked devices, he will be condemned." So if you're going to follow the Lord considers you a good person in the aspect that you've asked Jesus to come into your heart, save your soul, forgive you of your sin. The righteousness you have in you now is the goodness and the righteousness of God, and that's the only goodness you have. If you go back to the self side of you, which you'll find out there's no goodness in that. Now, what we've done is we've asked Jesus to come into our heart. The Bible said you can be in the world, but not of the world. Now, what we need to be is careful that we're not the same as we were before we got saved and part of the world. I, Brother Peter, was an alcoholic at the age of 30 years old. And I was part of the world. I was in the world, and I was part of the world. And matter of fact, I had people come to me, and deacons from churches and people from church come to talk to me about the Lord. And I'd say, "Hey, I bet you $50 I'm a better sinner than any Christian you got in your church is." And I was. When I followed the devil, I followed the devil. But now I'm following the Lord. I need to follow the Lord just as good. This is my book right here. I've been in this book now since November 5th, 1972 on a daily basis. Been through it, studied it, read it, lived by it. I couldn't live by it if I didn't know it. I couldn't live by it if I didn't study it. I couldn't go to bed at night and be comfortable and sleep a night if I didn't obey it. So I have to obey it. It said, "A man shall not be established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous shall not be moved." The root of the righteous shall not be moved. Do you know the devil still comes against us? Those of us who are following God. Matter of fact, the closer you get to following the Lord, my brother, my sister, the more the devil's going to come at you. But I'm going to tell you something. If he ain't bothering you, you might ought to check yourself out, because you're supposed to be in a war. And if you're on the front line in this war, the devil's going to come after you. He's going to come after you every way he possibly can. And he's going to try his best to defeat you. The only way you can win this war is to stay on the front line in it and to stay righteous by staying in the Word. And then he goes on to say, "A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband." I'm going to tell you right now, folks, I've been married 48 years, and my wife's a virtuous woman. She is a crown to me. I'm proud to go out of the house with her. I'm proud of her in the house. I'm proud to say she's the mother of my children. I'm proud to say she's the grandmother of my 12 children and some 11 great-grandchildren. And I'm proud to say she's the woman she is. She's actually a Proverbs 31 woman. She works during the day now that children are not at home. And she comes home and knits blankets at night she gives to people. She cooks, she sews, she gets out there and works. And she's the lady that does exactly what it says in Proverbs 31. And I tell you what, with a woman like that, I have to stay straight. You know, I don't have to get up since I'm semi-retired. I don't have to get up and go to work when she does at 5:30 in the morning or so. But I can't lay in bed either because I feel like I heal. If she's up, I need to be up. Now, this is something we've always done in our house, and that may be why it's lasted like it has, is I've always been the king in this house, and she's always been the queen. And our desire as a king and queen is to please each other. And if I'm trying to please her and she's trying to please me, we both happy. And that's the way it's supposed to be. If you try to please yourself, you're going to have an unhappy home. If she was trying to please herself, we would have an unhappy home. But we try to please each other. There's a lot of things we've done over 48 years that you could try that'll work. You try, if two of you are working, bring both paychecks home, cash them, throw it on the table. Mix it all up and say, this is our money. There's no such a thing as my money and your money. It's our money. And you figure out. You throw names in the hat and you pull them out and you say, this is who we're going to pay this week. And just so that we won't look bad, we're going to call the rest of them and tell them we're going to throw the name back in the hat next week. If it gets pulled out, we pay them. And just because you're saved doesn't mean you don't have bills or you don't have a stress, a strain, financially. But don't let that ruin your marriage. Let that make your marriage better. Actually, my wife drew a paycheck. I subbed her out to another contractor, and she drew a paycheck in my name for years. Never complained one time about it. The money came in, it went in the account. We earned it together, we spent it together. And that's just the way it was. And it says, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness to his bones. I could really stay right here for a long time, my friend. Do you know my wife would not let me go out of the house with a pair of pants that ain't ironed? She would not let me go out of the house with a shirt that's not ironed. As a matter of fact, if she saw me right now tonight, she'd make me get out, wipe my hand, comb it, put me a shirt and tie on, and take this old sweater off, and get in front of this machine looking respectable. And so she takes care of me. She makes sure that I look right and that I'm right. And as that keeps the house clean. I never seen anybody wear the varnish off the floors of the house, and keeps the clothes clean, keeps the dust out of the cupboards and the closets. And my goodness, there's more work. It's unreal what a woman has to do. If you don't get your wife a dozen roses every month or something, you're making a big mistake, fella. Do you know that you can go to Kroger's and get a dozen roses for $13? You can't hire a maid for 4 hours for $13, but your wife works 168 hours a week for you. She goes out and works on the job. She comes home, cooks, sews, washes, cleans the house, does everything. And you can't go get her a dozen roses. There's something wrong with you. And it'll show up in your marriage. It'll show up in your life later on. So you need to start thinking about it. You need to start thinking about it. You won't need marriage counselors if you'll just do right. Treat your wife right. Treat her like you ought to treat her. It said the wicked are overthrown and are not, but the house of the righteous shall stand. Today there are more wicked houses being overthrown than you can count. You know, one of the big problems today is that many people who say, I belong to Jesus, who say, I've asked the Lord, forgive me of my sin, come into my heart, their houses are overthrown too. You know why? Because they got their mind and their self before God. They won't get in the book. This is the book. This is the book right here. You got to get in this book. If you don't get in the book, you can't figure out how to do it. So you got to be in the book and put your wife first. Put your children second. Put the Lord first, your wife second, and the children third. And you'll come in there by accident, and you'll be treated good by accident. And so verse 9 was the last one, was the thought of the righteous are right, but the counsel of the wicked are deceit. The thought of the righteous is right.